I want you to tell us, how the Madaraka Festival has been for you as an artist and for artists generally. And then I also, want you to talk about how much do Zimbabweans, for example, interact with Kenyan music? We're talking about an intercultural exchange, or maybe what needs to be done to make this more frequent, even for Kenyans to interact with Zimbabwean music. Dre's.
Yeah, great question. I'll start backwards. I'll start with kind of how you can make this intercultural thing happen. I think it's incredibly important. Even now, I'm trying to lead the charge in Seattle, Washington. I'm trying to create partnerships between the radio stations in Zimbabwe and the radio stations, the independent radio stations like KXP in Seattle, trying to set these DJs and these people up to create connections. And in doing that, we're opening doors for other artists from Zimbabwe to be heard in Seattle, right? It's a step, but someone has to take that step in every single city and in every single country. We got to get back to old school things in music like DJs, right? DJs who actually want to break music or want to expose people to music. One of our problems is that industry is breaking down all over the world because everybody wants to be a star. No one wants to play their role. People don't want to be managers and DJs and publicists. Those are all the things that make music go. So if we restore DJs and managers and those things, those are like ligaments on a body. If you look at music or African music as one body, a body has to have a brain, but it also has to have ligaments and tendons and bones and all those other things. We need a complete industry. But with that are what you see is Simon playing his role. Festivals, music festivals, but making sure that those festivals incorporate all of Africa and the entire diaspora. I love what you guys said earlier on this One Mic show. When we first started talking, you were talking about African and you said anybody black. I love that because everything has to be about building bridges. If we start to alienate people who are black but not born in Africa, or black Americans, or if we start separating ourselves into 500 different categories, we're going to have a problem. There has to be one category which is African and is black. And so to answer your second question, which was your original when it comes to the Madaraka Festival, I've watched this festival grow from a baby. I remember the first one, and it was dope. It was at this place called the EMP, which is one of the premier museums in the Northwest. The museum is so phenomenal. It is where Dr. Dre and Eminem launched their tour. Their first show on their tour was at the EMP Museum to a sold out crowd. And so when Simon went there, I thought he was being a little bit, I thought he might have been biting off a little more than he can chew. But you know what? The community really responded and people came out and it was sold out and it was packed out and it was an amazing crowd. And it set the tone for Madaraka to continue to build bridges every single year. What's dope about this festival is you don't know what you're going to hear. It's not just trendy, right? Like we all love Afrobeat, like I said, but the industry loves to get very trendy, right? Where you hear one style of music, then everybody does that same style over and over and over. But with Madaraka Festival, you're going to hear so many different styles of African music. It's beautiful. Someone might play a flute. Someone might play a guitar. Someone might play an instrument you've never heard of, right? And that's what's beautiful about it. It's everything from acoustic music to synthesized music, right? And that all of that is in Africa. We play electric instruments, but we also play acoustic instruments or traditional instruments that don't have microphones and speakers and all those other things. So I just love the festival because it feels like a marketplace. There's food, there's African food, African culture, African clothing. And it's just continuing to level the playing field for African artists across the continent.